Hey, young friends, Dr. Bill here. As always, I am really glad that you've chosen to spend just a few moments with me as we continue to talk about the things that Jesus said and did. For the last couple of months, we've been taking a look at Jesus' parables. Now, you may recall that a parable is something like a story that Jesus told in which he appealed to things that people saw every day all around them, like yeast in a loaf of bread, a man with two sons, stuff like that, ordinary, everyday stuff. Well, today we're going to look at a parable called the parable of the bridesmaids, which is found in Matthew chapter 25. Here's how it goes. Jesus said, hey, if you want to understand the kingdom of God, or if you want to know how God works in the world, listen to this. He said there was going to be a wedding. And so 10 bridesmaids got together to wait for the arrival of the bridegroom. Since it was night, they all had lamps so they could light the way for the bridegroom to go to the wedding ceremony. Now, 5 of the bridesmaids were foolish. They had their lamps filled with oil, but they didn't have any extra oil. 5 of the bridesmaids were wise. They not only had their lamps and their oil, but they had some extra oil. Well, it seems the bridegroom was late in arriving. And so while they waited, the bridesmaids slept. They kind of dozed off. And all the while, their torches or their lamps were burning. When the announcement came that the bridegroom was finally on his way, all of the bridesmaids jumped up and took a look at their lamps. They were flickering. They were about to go out. So the wise bridesmaids filled their lamps with fresh oil, and their lamps continued to burn. The foolish bridesmaids said, hey, share some of your oil with us. But the other bridesmaids said, we don't have enough. And so they said to the 5 foolish bridesmaids, you need to go out and shop and find some extra oil, but hurry before the bridegroom arrives. So those 5 left. And for whatever reason, they could not find any oil for their lamps. And so they missed the party. They missed the wedding. Now, as background, let me call your attention to a couple of things. Most often, a wedding would take place at the home of the bridegroom. That's kind of different from our thinking, isn't it? We usually think of weddings taking place in the bride's church or in the bride's home. And that day, it was at the home of the bridegroom. So very likely what this story reflects is that the bridegroom had gone to his bride's home and had gathered her up, and together they were on their way to the bridegroom's home for the wedding itself. Naturally, this was a very happy and joyous occasion, so there would be a big procession, sort of like a parade, in which all of the friends, lots of family members would surround the bride and groom and would just have a wonderful time as they marched on their way to the wedding. Well, it's in that context that we learn that the bridesmaids who were waiting, well, some had plenty of oil for their lamps to light the way for the wedding couple to their ceremony, while 5 others, well, they just missed everything because they didn't have enough oil for their lamps. Now, the point of this parable is certainly that we should try to be as ready as we possibly can be. The truth is, we never know when or how God is going to show up. We never know when somehow God is going to walk into our lives. We may be asleep. We may have just awakened. It may happen during the course of an ordinary day. We just never really know. And so the parable says, be alert, be on the lookout, watch, wait. As well, the parable also insists that while we're waiting, we must do our best to keep ourselves prepared. And that can mean a lot of different things. Certainly that doesn't mean that you and I need to have oil lamps always filled and lamps lit up for when God shows up. The point of the lamps is simply to say, with whatever we have, whatever we're doing, whatever our lives are about, our lives should be ready and waiting to welcome God whenever God comes. And so that might mean that you and I may spend some additional time praying so that we can be alert to the work of God and the presence of His Spirit. That may mean that we pay attention to serving others, because it's in serving others that we discover where God is, because God cares about people. Stuff like that. That's how we get ready and stay ready. Well, that'll do it for today's teaching. As always, if you have any questions, I would love to chat with you about them, and you know how to reach me. In the meantime, I hope everything is going well for you and your family as you continue to work through this school year. I look forward to seeing you again next week, and in the meantime, take care and God bless. Bye-bye.